Hello everyone. So our bell ringer was a quick recap of order of operations just to refresh our memories because we're going to need that when we start learning about evaluating expressions today. So I'm just going to go through these super fast so we can get on to the lesson. So we got to do parentheses first. This first one has a lot going on in parentheses, so we're just going to follow order of operations in it. There aren't any additional parentheses. We're going to go to exponents. So right here we're doing the 2 to the second power, which is going to get us 4. So I rewrite the problem. If you want something to write on and do that, feel free to pause the video and do it, or you can just watch as a refresher. Then I've got addition or division in there. Since we still have stuff in parentheses, I know division comes first, right? Because remember, we're following that whole PEMDAS idea. Remember, don't forget with addition, subtraction, or multiplication and division, you do it left to right. Anywho, so I've got my rest of my problem I'm just writing. Okay, and I end up with 2 when we do that 4 divided by 2. I'm going to finish up the last part in parentheses first, so I'm just rewriting the problem, and I end up with 8. So then we got 2 more steps here, so we're going to do exponents first because I'm done with the parentheses. 3 to the second power is 9. Remember, it's 3 times 3. Subtract that 8, we end up with 1 as our answer. Okay, so then this other one real quick. Again, I'm just going through it super fast. We're going to practice this in the lesson. This one's a little more simple. We don't have any parentheses or exponents, but we do have some multiplication or division. So I'm going to do the division of 8 divided by 2 to get 4. So I'm just going to rewrite the rest of the problem. Then remember how we do addition and subtraction left to right. Okay, so I'm going to do the subtraction first, and I get 5 plus that 3 to get 8. All right, so that was just a quick refresher. But that's Cora playing with the toy. So we're going to talk about using what we call substitution to evaluate expressions. It's basically what we were just doing. We're just adding one step. So for your digital notebooks, it's only for these next 2 days, Thursday and Friday. And they're a little bit more of a reference. I don't believe there's really anything you need to type in. There might be something small, but in general, it's more of a reference for you these next 2 days, and we'll have a new one next week continuing this topic. So let's jump in and get started. So when we evaluate expressions, that's what we were just doing, but remember how we had all those variables when we were talking about expressions before? Well, now we're going to start filling in numbers to replace those. Now, the number can change up, even if it uses the same variable, it could change like from problem to problem, but whatever they tell you that variable is, that's what you're going to use. So we're going to use something called substitution. So we're going to substitute whatever number they're telling us for the variable. We're going to substitute that in place of the variable. I'll show you what that means in a second. But think about the word substitute, right? Like if I wasn't there at school, you would have a substitute, which is taking my place, right? That's kind of the idea here is we have a variable, but we're going to substitute a number in for that variable, so the number will take the place of the variable. So then you just evaluate the expression using order of operations. That's it. See how we just really added one step? So these are not in your notes. I just want to show you as an example. So let's say I'm telling you that A equals 5. Now that doesn't mean A, if you ever see A, it always equals 5. It does not. Just in this case, because that's what I'm telling you. So A equals 5. So let's do this first problem. And we're just going to substitute 5 in for A. So make sure you always rewrite that step first. I know you can probably do it in your head, but please rewrite it because that's the substitute step. Then we know that 5 plus 9 is 14. And so that would be our answer. Real simple, right? It's one more step than we were doing before. You're just substituting in for that variable now. So if that was driving you nuts, not knowing what the variable was, now you know. So now we substitute in 5 for the A here on the second problem. I'm going to keep that power. So 5 to the second power is like saying 5 times 5, so I end up with 25. These are real simple to get us started. Last one here, we've got 5 being substituted in for A again, and we got 2 plus 9. I'm going to do parentheses first, and we get 11 from that. Remember when the number's next to the parentheses, that just means multiplication. So then we got 5 times 11, which is 55. Okay, again, we're starting off real simple. Let's try a couple more. If you want to challenge yourself, if you're like, I think I'm picking this up pretty quickly, go ahead and pause the video, see if you can try these on your own, and then check with me. But if you want to just do them right along with me, that's fine too. Make sure you're writing on something, following along, because these you do need to start doing with me if you haven't already. So they tell us that x equals 3, y equals 7, c equals 2. So that's what it's going to be for each of these problems in this particular case. So since x is 3, I'm going to write 3. Remember 3x just means 3 times x, so I'm going to use the dot there. And the 3 is in place of the x. So 3 times 3 minus, they say y is 7, so we're going to replace that y with a 7, so we're going to substitute that in. Then you just solve with order of operations. We're going to do multiplication first because that comes before subtraction. We end up with 9 minus 7 to get 2. Let's try another. So we're going to substitute first like we've been doing. And if I'm ever going too fast, just pause or rewind. Feel free to do that. But 3 is in place of x, so we're going to substitute that in, and we get 3 to the power of 2 plus, and we got 5 times y, and y is 7, so we're doing 5 times 7. We're going to do our exponents first, because that would come first with order of operations. We get 9, because 3 to the second power is 9, plus that 5 times 7. Then we do our multiplication before we add, so 9 plus 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, and then we add this up. You can always set it up, like for me, sometimes when I see it horizontally, it's harder. So if you want to set it up top and bottom off to the side, feel free to do that. That's up to you. But I know some of you can do that in your head. And we should end up with 44. Okay, let's try 2 more. I know I'm going quick, but I think this is something you're fairly familiar with or easy to pick up. Okay. Again, if you want to challenge yourself and pause and try them on your own and then check with me, feel free to do that. If you want to just do them with me right now, I can do that too. So this time we've got C in there. C is 2 as they show us over here, right? We're keeping those same numbers in place of those variables. So we're going to put 2 to the 3rd power plus 4 times y, which is 7. We're going to do those exponents first. Remember, that is 2 times 2 times 2. That's what it means. So we end up with 8 plus 4 times 7. We're going to do that multiplication. So we get 8 plus 28. And we add it all together to get 36. Oops, sorry, my 6 is a little funny. Last one here. So we've got our substitution first. Notice we always start with that, and then we just do order of operations. Pretty simple. So we do 3 times 7 because that 3y means multiplication. Subtract, and c was 2, so we're substituting that in. We got to do everything in parentheses first. Multiplication would come before subtraction using PEMDAS, so we get 21 minus 2. 21 minus 2 is 19, so I've got 2 times 19. Remember, that's what it means when it's next to the parentheses. And we get 38 when we multiply those. Again, if you needed to set that up off to the side like that, feel free to do that. Up to you. Just make sure you're showing all those steps. And notice how I showed all of my steps no matter what. Even if it was an easy problem like some of these, I still showed that substitution and showing each step, circling my answer at the end to make it very clear. Okay. So let me give you some directions on this. There are several directions on the Google Slides for your practice, but I want you to hear them too. So you're going to have a maze here, and this isn't set up exactly like what your slides look like. This is the maze, but I don't have all the things that are on the slide. So first off, the directions say that you're going to evaluate each expression given that n equals 8 and x equals 9. That's what you're going to use for every single problem. They only have those 2 variables. Sometimes they only have one of those 2, but those are the numbers you're going to use over and over again. When you find the correct answer, then that shows you where you go next. It will lead you to the next problem. So just as an example, okay, let's say I solve this first problem and my answer is 9.3. If that's my answer, then I'm going to go down to this problem right here. But if my answer is 16.5, I'm going to go to the right and be at this problem, okay? So just be very careful where you end up next, okay? Now on yours, you're going to see these little purple boxes over here. I've cloned those, so like copied and pasted them. So there's a bunch of them stacked on each other. So you just need to drag one over. So once you get done with the problem, drag it over so then you can see what your path will look like as you go, okay? So just cover them up once you get them done. Now, if you are, as you're going, I would suggest that you check the answer key as you go, like maybe do 1 or 2 problems and double check that you're heading in the right direction. Otherwise, you're gonna, if you get something wrong, you're gonna go in the complete wrong direction and have to redo a bunch. So feel free to check as you go. If you mess up something, just click that little back arrow at the top left, that's the undo button, and that'll help you undo. So if you're missing any of the rectangles or things like that, or if you accidentally delete one of the rectangles, just copy and paste a new one. So that's what I did to make them, just copy and paste a new one and just cover them up. And then make sure you're checking with the answer key along the way, but also when you get done. And that is your practice for today. You do not need to insert any pictures of your work, but you will need to do your work out, because some of these you can do in your head, but a lot of them you can't. So make sure you're writing out on paper or whiteboard or something. All right? So that's your practice for today. Good luck. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.